trustee meeting to order, please. Welcome to everybody. Vanessa, would you please call the roll?
Chair Malkin.
Here.
Vice Chair Davis. Here. Treasurer DeMarty.
DeMarty here.
Secretary Hatcher. Here. Trustee Fleming. Here. Trustee Landau. Trustee Clayton.
Thank you. We have an agenda in front of us. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda, please? Support. Thank you. Any discussion, any corrections? If not, all in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The agenda is approved. Thank you. Verbal communications is next on our agenda. WCC Education Association, Ms. Kissel. Are you in the house?
I am. I'm assuming I'm going here, yes? Unless someone tells me otherwise. Well, this is strange to be here, but I'm thankful to be back in front of you. It is April 2021. And as we end the winter term thinking about our transition to post-COVID habits, I want to begin by acknowledging the outstanding work of the counselors, advisors, librarians, clinical instructors, lab technicians, and faculty at WCC. For some, this end of the term is the time for change as they pursue jobs outside of WCC or are retiring after years and years of service. To those faculty, counselors, and childcare staff, we thank you for your dedication to this community of students. Looking back over this past year, there has not been a month that has been quiet. Just when one issue is resolved, something new needs our attention. To better understand the needs of the membership, I noted last month that the WCCEA was launching a brief survey. Over the course of 2 weeks, we collected 106 responses to a series of multiple choice and open-ended questions. I have sent those results to the Board of Trustees for your review. President Blanca and VPI Hearns received copies as well. In short, the majority of responses supported a return to campus in some capacity, recognizing that there needs to be continued flexibility for staff and students. There was concern over student connectivity to coursework and the ability to maintain course rigor. Other trends in the comments focused on keeping safety a priority and having more transparent and timely notice for changes. The WCC hopes this information is helpful as we continue to work together. If you have any questions, of course, please feel free to reach out. I'd like to know that there are no current grievances to report at this time. We are working on a handful of long-term issues related to office space and adjuncts, and we've completed letters of agreement to manage fall work on campus. As I've said, though, there is always something new to be discussed. I will end this month's remarks as I did last year at this time. We are forever changed because of this pandemic, but I know if anything about this faculty and staff at WCC, we will use this time to grow and create an even stronger community of learners, and we will all continue to be leaders in and out of the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. There are 3 members of the public that are requested to speak to us tonight. I'll call each of you by name. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes apiece. Sarah Caruso, please. And Vanessa, are these microphones in the center?
Right there.
Oh. Good, thank you.
That way they can take off their mask. I mean, Bill and...
Right. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Caruso, and I am the president of the Office Professional and Technical Association at WCC. We are better known as the OBTA. The OBTA union represents the 12 child care professionals and 1 program technician who were employed at the child care facility. We were shocked to hear of the closing of the child care facility, since we were told in our monthly meetings with administration that they would be opening the facility again once it was safe to do so. These folks' lives and their livelihoods have been turned upside down, and they are suffering deeply from losing their work family, as well as not being able to share their love with the children and the families that they watched over every day. Sorry, my glasses are fogging up.
If you like, you may unmask there. You're socially distanced from
Oh, okay,
other
that'd be
parties.
helpful. There we go, thank you. So what you were not told at the April 6th meeting is that the college was going to let these folks go with no severance at all. This is an entire department that is being wiped out with nothing offered to them for their combined 229 years of service to this college. I voiced the union's strong opposition to this in a meeting with HR on April 7th, stating that these folks are long-term employees who most of them have devoted their entire careers, not just to WCC, but most of them have been in the child care facility for that time. This is no way to treat long-term and highly dedicated employees. I was disappointed that we had to heavily advocate to get anything for these folks. It should not have been this way. None of these benefits that they received, that they're getting, would have been given had the union not pushed back at this unfair and incomparable situation. Two concerns that I have. Where are the employee eliminations going to stop? These are not COVID related, and neither were the 45 IT employees, so they can't blame it on that. This is not good for employee morale, as a lot of folks are wondering if and when their department will be eliminated. Working in this type of environment does not foster full productivity, trust, nor loyalty towards the college at a time when it's needed the most. Second concern is, as it was reported at the March 30th Board of Trustee meeting, the college is doing well financially, even in the midst of a pandemic. I question why some of the $1.7 million surplus the college currently has was not voluntarily offered to these folks rather than have to fight for what little they received. It would only seem the right thing to do. I would like to close by acknowledging the 12 people who lost their jobs, plus the one technician who remains employed at WCC. These are their names and the years of service to WCC. Debbie Freeman, 49 years. Gay Wilt, 27 years. Sarah Carmichael, 23 years. Kirsten Cunningham, 23 years. Stacey Knox, 21 years. Amni Alston, 19 years. Phyllis Cole, 17 years. Kristen Ellis, 14 years. Andrea Maxwell, 14 years. Brittany David Johnson, 7 years. Amanda Piesky, 6 years. Julie Gardner, 6 years. And Jackie Mullinan, 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call on Francisco Rogue. Francisco?
Is there any way you can have IT kind of turn the mic up just a touch more, if that's possible?
Hi. So my daughter was an alumni of the Children's Center, and when she heard about the closing, she's 6 years old, she wrote, "Don't close the daycare. I loved everything," along with the drawing of her and her favorite teacher. I didn't write a drawing, I didn't make a drawing, but I did write a letter. Because at the board retreat, EVP Blakey described the closure of the Children's Center as a win-win. This ignores the losses, which are real and deserve to be heard and acknowledged. First, the students, staff, and faculty who use the center benefited from having childcare right where they needed it, making for one less stop in a hectic day. For those dropping off their children for the first time, being minutes away was an immeasurable relief. The children who attended were a slice of the socioeconomic and racial spectrums. They internalized that there can be more than one black kid in a class, or that they don't have to solely represent their race. Our community also loses from having fewer places where children normalize diversity at such a young age. The student interns also lose interacting with the diversity of children, which challenge notions that form in a less diverse environment. Having more than one Hispanic kid meant they were less likely to form biases about such kids. Finally, employees of the center expected to go back. Learning that they are out of a job after a very difficult year is devastating to them and their families. Was the Children's Center closure necessary and properly executed? First, it was assumed that attendance is declining because there's a lack of need. But there was no mention of what was done to attract usage. Were students and staff aware of the center? Would use increase if the hours were more flexible? Did hours of use decline or just number of students? And what are WCC's peers doing? What is trending in the field? Schoolcraft, U of M, and EMU's children's centers are currently open. Did WCC consult with them about declining enrollments? About whether the need for the children's center has truly passed? Why did WCC give up on its center while they did not? What other cost-saving strategies were considered for the center, such as reducing employee count, raising center cost, removing time restrictions, or allowing use by non-WCC members, as is done for the fitness center? But perhaps worst of all, center employees were treated with disregard. The college should have been aware of what happened to its employees, of their needs and of their struggles. Instead, the college was, according to G.C. Barkoff, uncertain as to their current status. The employees should have been informed of the closure firsthand from the college, but instead learned from friends that they are out of a job, believed that they had no severance, and were even unsure how they would retrieve their belongings. This does not acknowledge a fond farewell to the center, as Trustee Hatcher desired to do. At a minimum, center employees deserve an apology for their mistreatment and a severance package that fully acknowledges their years of service. Additionally, inform the WCC community of these mistakes. Reassure remaining employees that they will not also be so poorly treated, and check in on the employment, mental, and emotional status of all your employees. And next time there's an important change, verify all sides, ask the tough questions, and demand real answers from your administrators. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to call Stacey Knox for comment. Stacey, you have 3 minutes.
I apologize, but this is going to be difficult for me. My name is Stacey Knox. I worked in the Children's Center for 21 years. The word best was used in an MLive article. The best that could be done for 12 dedicated employees was $2,750, medical and dental COBRA for 4 months, and 2 years of tuition at WCC. The Children's Center doors were closed last March. The teachers were reduced to 20 hours and then eventually furloughed with benefits. In the letter of agreement that was written for the furlough, it was stated that the college's intention was to open the center when it was deemed safe. In numerous meetings, HR continued to echo this intention. For a year, the staff scraped by. They fought for months with unemployment. They took jobs that were not in their field. Every one of the 15 staff members planned to return because the plan was to reopen the center. I would like to tell you what BEST looks like in the early childhood education field. All the requirements of licensing, NEEYC, and Great Start to Quality are met above and beyond. Staff see a child who comes to school in shoes 2 sizes too small, so they buy new shoes and slip them on quietly. Staff who sees a child at lunch looking longingly at the lunch boxes, and they only have a paper bag. So they go and they buy the lunchbox. They put the child's name on in permanent marker and send it home. Staff who hear a parent is struggling financially, so they gather up their supplies from their own pantry and gift them to the parent. In winter, we go outside. No little hands are ever subjected to the cold because the staff purchase mittens every time they see them in the store. Staff who show up to graduation just to see the kids cheer as their parents walk across the stage. Staff who have sat and cried, your mama finished, sat and cried with parents as they accepted their child may qualify for special needs services. Staff who have been hit, kicked, spit, and choked, yet remained there with the child. The best staff know this child needs them, even through the tantrum. Staff who are willing to put their lives on hold for a year while they wait for their center to open because they had found a place where parents value them and are thankful for all that they do. Staff who know that children who are raised by parents with a higher education do better academically themselves. This was the WCC Children's Center staff. 15 people gave a piece of themselves to each family that walked through our door. We have over 256 years of combined service. As the person who enrolled every family for the last 6 years, I feel confident in saying that we have cared for thousands of families. When we care for a family, we give a piece of ourselves to every one of those people. That's a lot of pieces of us that's in the Washtenaw County. I just need to say one last thing. We know what our impact was on the students of WCC.
Trustee Milken. Time.
I consider you who think about the impact that these decisions lately have had on these 15 people.
Your time has expired. Thank you. Vanessa, were there any written communications that were submitted?
There were 32 received written communications that was sent to the board and 2 emails.
I'm sorry, say again?
32 received. Oh, can you hear me?
Take off your mask. Maybe you can take off your mask since you're.
32 received. Can you guys hear me? And then Chair Milliken, can we go back and, if you wouldn't mind, and approve the minutes?
You'd like me to go back and do what? I can't hear
Approve
you.
the minutes.
Of course, yes.
Thank you.
The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the March 30th monthly meeting and April 6th retreat as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So move. Second.
And support? Any discussion? Any corrections? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The minutes are approved. Thank you, Vanessa, for your diligence there. Now, we got past written communications? Okay. Moving on to special reports. Vice President Mueller, please.
Okay, let me do this, and let me do this. And here we go.
Dr. Mueller,
Yes.
I was told that you can, if you speak on one microphone and not on the other microphone, you're 12 feet away from everyone, and you can remove your mask so
Okay.
that we can hear you.
Okay.
Is that correct? Okay.
Well, good evening. Good evening, trustees, and thank you for allowing me to present tonight a report on Free College Week. To get started, I thought that it might be helpful to give you a little context if I reviewed the purpose of the Free College Week event. So first, the purpose of the event is to provide value to WCC's constituents. 2, to engage Washtenaw County citizens, business, and K-12 audiences. 3, to position WCC as the community's college. 4, support the college brand through awareness and engagement. 5, deliver a free, high-quality, and fun teaching and learning experience. And 6, expand outreach as an opportunity to engage a wider audience and potentially entice continued enrollment in the college's excellent programs and services. As you may recall, Free College Day was something that Dr. Belanca brought to Washtenaw Community College when she became the president. It was first hosted by WCC in 2014, and it was designed to showcase the college's excellent facilities and expert faculty by inviting local residents to participate in a unique and free on-campus learning experience. In those days, the event was held twice a year, and the biggest issues we had to be concerned with regarding scheduling at that time were U of M football games and Easter break. Now, that seems like such a very long time ago that we've had to be worried about that, and especially after the year that we've just been through. So with that, let's fast forward to 2021, the COVID-19 global pandemic. Well, this year, we saw it was the perfect year for us to consolidate the event, to align with Community College Month moving forward, and to reimagine community engagement and delivery. It was from that revisioning exercise that we transformed Free College Day into Free College Week. In addition to consolidating the event down to one annual event, we also expanded engagement opportunities. In addition to faculty, non-credit trainers, and college staff, this year, individuals representing business and industry and K-12 education were invited to present on areas of expertise, interest, and/or talent. Engaging businesses in K-12 in this way allowed them to have the opportunity to learn new skills regarding virtual presentations, as well as the opportunity to present to a large community audience, thereby creating awareness of their particular areas of expertise. We've been wanting to do this. This was a great idea, and getting the college involved, not just in engaged with businesses from the participation perspective of attending these events, but actually in presenting is a great way to value their expertise and bring them to the table and give them an opportunity to see the community. This has been a tough year for them, too. Another change that we made was that this year was the addition of a featured guest speaker. And that was Lori Mouton's idea, our new Vice President of Marketing and PR. This year, we also featured that guest speaker, Chanel Stett, and she's on the screen. Chanel is one of our own, a former WCC student and current reporter for the Detroit Free Press. She spoke about her career path and networking tips regarding the journalism industry. Some of you may know that Chanel attended Washtenaw Technical Middle College and graduated in May 2017 with her high school diploma and a WCC Associate of Arts in Journalism degree. She transferred to the University of Michigan Dearborn, where she received a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism in 2019. While completing her education, Chanel earned a wide range of experience by completing internships at Model D Media, WDIV TV in Detroit, the Public Relations Department at Garden City Hospital, MLive, and the Detroit Free Press. In August 2020, she was hired full-time by the Free Press, where she focuses her reporting on minority businesses, nonprofits, and entrepreneurs in the Metro Detroit area. I had the opportunity to both present Chanel to participants of the event, and I was also able to attend her session, and she was absolutely fantastic. She was a brilliant speaker. She was articulate, she was poised, and very, very successful. And I think anybody that attended that session that day walked away feeling like they learned something that they could apply to their own profession. She was just excellent. So, okay, we made some changes. Now, let's move on to the outcomes. How did we do after all was said and done, and how does that compare to 2014? I can tell you, we were a little nervous about this because we didn't know how this would go over. We didn't have the campus to be able to take people around, show them, we didn't know what the response would be from the community. So we thought, well, we have to give it a try. We took a mitigated risk and hoped for the best. And the answer was, it was excellent. We did an awesome job. We had 38 presenters. In 2014, when we started, we had just 15 presenters, and they did about 2 sessions in terms of what they presented to the community, and people attended one session, and then they could choose another session. This year, we had 6,225 enrollments from 1,281 unduplicated participants, which is an average of about 5 enrollments being registered per person for Free College Week. If we take a closer look at the breakdown of the participants, 869, or roughly 68%, lived in Washtenaw County. But we can take another look, and overall participants lived in 105 Michigan cities, 15 states, literally coast to coast. People attended Free College Week, and 2 countries. Not bad, considering that we didn't even know if we would be able to attract our own residents due to online fatigue. We hope for the best, but this far exceeds our expectations for sure. It really, I kept coming back to Dr. Blanket saying, oh my goodness, we have more, we have more, we have more. And we wondered when it would stop, and it just didn't. People just kept enrolling. So I have to give a huge shout out, big thank you to the marketing department, because they did an excellent job of promoting this event. So thank you, Lori Mouton and your team. There you are. Good job. We've been hearing a lot about online fatigue, and I think that we are all experiencing some of that to some degree. Given that, why do you think that Free College Week was so popular, given that it was in an online virtual environment? I can tell you why. 1, the variety of offerings. In the 82 sessions, we were able to offer things from basic drawing, fun types of things, basic drawing, painting, what have you, all the way up to creative writing and how to protect your financial information. And that was what the University of Michigan Credit Union presented when they were here. The second reason is the college's reputation for having talented passionate, and engaging teachers and presenters. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And the third thing was the flexibility of the session and session delivery times. The fact that we had so many delivery times through the course of a week made it very, very opportunistic for people to be able to be involved at times that fit into their own schedules. So although you need a variety and flexibility, there's no way around it. Talented faculty and presenters that engage participants is what keeps people coming back. That's why they come here. The college has a great reputation. So for a moment, I want to share with you an example of what I mean. Tom Zimmerman. I love Tom Zimmerman. Tom Zimmerman, wow, what an incredible guy. Wonderful. He's so neat, and he brings such enthusiasm to the topic that he's teaching. He did this session on creative writing that was just awesome, and it was an exercise in writing a poem about who you are. And, you know, in an hour, how much can you really go? I thought to myself, how much can you really go through in an hour? This guy was fantastic, and the participants loved him. His session had probably 70, 80 people signed up for it. And what was really neat about Tom Zimmerman was the fact that he talked to these folks about writing this poem, and he encouraged them. He said, you know, basically, you can do this. I can help walk you through this. You know, you can do this. And so he taught them how to do this. And he told them, if you want to, after the session, send me your poem, and I'll create an anthology online, a book, so that we can publish those, and we can talk about those, and other people can see them. And do you know that he got like 20 or 25 people after a Free College Week session to send in their poems because they wanted him to see them and they wanted to share them because they were so excited about that session that he taught. I would be very, very surprised if Tom Zimmerman didn't see some of those people from Free College Week and from his session in his fall classes. He was that engaging. He was just absolutely engaging. So that's the type of thing when I talk about the fact that, you know, the people who are presenting make all the difference in the world. There's nothing like, I mean, the teachers, the presenters you all remember, they're the ones that really touch you. They're the ones that show that they care about you, they value you, they're interested in what you're doing. Those are the ones you really gravitate to. And those are the ones you remember. So I think that the people that were involved in this year's session, the sessions that they ran, they were just absolutely excellent. But don't take my word for it. So participant feedback, these are some of the things that the students sent back to us. Hey, wonderful expansion of the Free College Day. In the future, I'd recommend, you know, keeping a free virtual college aspect. Somebody else wrote in and they said, hey, I didn't know about student services, but because you had somebody present on that, I learned something and I'm going to be able to share it with other people. Somebody wrote and they said, I was able to attend more than I was if I had been there in person, and they appreciated that. Another one, you provided a nice variety of topics. Our first Zoom experience, and we found it very engaging and amazing. Informative and emerging and engaging learning experience via the internet, no less. So this was somebody that had done it on the internet, really wasn't that sure that they were going to have that great of an experience. And what do you know? They had a terrific experience. And you see that one of these people wrote, what a wonderful idea. I've been in the past in person, but this was more convenient. So they were able to attend a lot more. And the final one that I loved, it was, thank you for doing this. WCC is the best. I love WCC. So how wonderful to hear that from the community. And the presenters were no less complimentary. The sessions, you know, again, this was the first time we did it. So, you know, there's always, whenever you know, come across change, you always wonder how it's going to go. You're nervous. You haven't done it before. You're not competent in it yet. And you're just hoping, you're prepared as much as you can. You're hoping for the best. And boy, I'll tell you, we had a great group of people working with me on this. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't the Michelle Mueller show, I'll tell you that. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a college to run an event like this and to do it really, really well. So I'm really proud to say that on my team joining me was Lori Mouton from marketing, Pete Basile Thank you so much for media services. I don't know how we would have done it without you guys. You were wonderful all week. Beck and call, you were wonderful. Colleen Villa in marketing, John Powell in web services, Shelley Zervos in corporate training and lifelong learning, Pete Lushkovich, who, you know, how can you not love Pete Lushkovich, Director of Student Development and Activities, and Rachel Barsh, who was just excellent supervisor of student activities. And again, at the end of the day, none of this could have been executed well without the talent of a great team. Additionally, I have to publicly acknowledge, I would be remiss not to acknowledge the presenters that were faculty and staff from the college and our external presenters from business and industry. I really want to recognize Victoria Bennett's staff. They did a lot for us to answer phones and help us field questions. The Welcome Center staff, the 22 volunteers that assisted with the Zoom sessions, helping to answer chat questions and direct students to receive information. And again, the media services staff, Pete, they were just marvelous. They were all excellent and responsible for helping to make this really, really successful. So at this time, I'd like to entertain any questions that you may have.
Will any of these remarks be posted on the WCC website?
I think we could probably arrange that, couldn't we, Lori?
Sounds like some of them would be great.
They
to
definitely
chance
will
to
be
hear.
part of our advertising for the next year, I can tell you that.
Any other questions? Dave?
Thank you, Michelle. It sounds great. Sounds like it's a huge improvement, and I'd like to see us continue to do this expanded more than one day and continue to do it by internet because it reaches far more people.
Yeah.
It's great, 1,200 distinct individual participants, many of whom did multiple classes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we are. You remarked that Professor Zimmerman would probably maybe see some of these participants in a future class. Are we pushing this out to those participants to encourage them at our low tuition rates to engage with the college more deeply over a full semester? Are we pursuing that? What sort of marketing are we doing?
Yes, great question. What we did is we took all of the registrations, we're going through those right now, and we're compiling all of that information, Trustee DeVardi, and we're using it to populate our recruitment software so that we can reach out further and try to get some of those people into college credit classes. There's some that are alumni, and so they may be interested in doing some advanced degree work, just because maybe they want a post-certificate or they want to enroll in professional development with the college. But we definitely will be placing those names into our recruitment funnel so that we are able to talk to them individually about the opportunity to attend the college.
Any other questions?
One follow-up. I'd encourage us to strike while the iron is hot.
Oh, yes.
And contact these participants quickly, soon after this positive event. And I know we had all this positive feedback. Have we attempted to assertively ask for feedback, or
Yes.
are we just taking it past?
No, we've asked for feedback, both from the presenters' perspective and the participants' perspective. Because, I mean, the participants, I mean, obviously, they're the ones that we're serving, so we want to make sure that we're meeting their needs, and we want to hear from them regarding their experience, but also from the presenters, because the presenters, it's really important to hear from them, because this was the first time that we did this, so we want to make sure that the training sessions that we did on Zoom, the reach out that we did to the presenters, et cetera, all was really, really helpful, and it was timely, and it was done in a way that allowed them to be able to prepare appropriately. Did we get the materials to them enough ahead of time, et cetera? So we've had really great feedback from both groups.
Thank you.
Yep.
Trustee Hatcher?
Did I miss it, or did you tell me how many of the faculty and staff were presenters?
There were 15 faculty out of the 38. There were another 15 from the non-credit side, and there were 8 that presented that were from business and industry.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Appreciate that presentation. Tab B on our agenda this evening is personnel recommendations, April 2021. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the personnel recommendations as submitted. Do I hear a motion
I make a motion.
and support?
Second.
We have support. Any discussion? Yes.
First of all, I'd like to mention that I should be getting or we should all be getting the updated org charts soon.
Get that?
It's March, and now it's April, and usually it's in March. I appreciate that, because there have been lots and lots of changes. Under Student and Academic Services, on page 1, there's Ashley Starks, a Recruitment and Outreach Specialist. Is there still another position open in that area? Do you know? There were 2, I think, before. No, doesn't ring a bell.
We have one on hold.
Okay, and that position reports to McCaskill?
Correct.
Okay. And on page 2, the 2 new hires, are they replacing the 2 employment ending that are below there? Is there a direct relationship there?
These were previous positions that were open, that we replaced.
Okay, so they're not necessarily the ones that are gone. And they report to?
They report to Lori Mouton. Lori Mouton?
Okay, yep, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Tab C, financial reports for March 2021. EVP Johnson, before we jump into this, do you have some illumination that you'd like to share with us?
Thank you, Chair Middleton. Yes, I'd like to draw the board's attention to page 3 of your report, if you could, please. Consistent with prior months, the revenue is down about $3 million, as you see. Largely, that's in tuition and fees, which is down about $3.3 million. You'll note also that spring semester is showing a slight positive. As you may be aware, credit hours are trending up year over year, and that's a real positive thing. Largely, that's due to the 2 state-funded programs, Future for Frontliners, and also the Reconnect program, that those 2 have really had a positive impact, and we certainly encourage the state's continued support of that program. You'll also note that state appropriations is above budget, as we've been saying. The budget had assumed a 10% reduction, and that did not happen. That's a really good thing. So that will actually trend at about $1.5 million above budget, and that's really good because that helps to offset the tuition reduction that we've received. That $3 million of revenue reduction is offset by the cost, the expenditures. The operating expenditures are trending about $6 million below budget, and that's kind of split between the personnel and the non-personnel side. Consistent with prior months, both our vacancies and the full-time side are trending greater than budget. The vacancies are greater than what we had assumed in budget. We're trending around 33, 34 positions vacant as compared to budget's assumption of around 25. And part-time expenditures, largely in the staff area, are below budget. And the non-personnel expenditures, those are also trending below budget, largely because we're not on campus. And the budget had assumed that we would be offering most of our courses to be on campus. So you'll see that $6 million of expenditures, however, is offset by lower revenue, net revenue that comes from the fitness center. We're trending about $1.1 million below budget because membership is significantly reduced as a result of the pandemic. So in sum, that we're about $2 million to the good, better than break even for the first 9 months of the year. Concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees receive the financial reports for March 2021 as follows: General Fund, Deferred Maintenance Fund, Capital Fund, and Combined Schedule of Investments, all funds. Do I hear a motion, please?
So moved. DeVarty moves.
And support?
Support.
We have support. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Facilities Development Report, tab D. Mr. Johnson, will you continue?
Great, thank you, Chair Milliken. I'd like to draw the board's attention to two line items. On your second page under campus repair maintenance, item 5, one of the largest projects that we still have going for this fiscal year is the TI window replacement and other renovation work that we're doing. That project is going along very nicely, and we anticipate it to be done sometime later in June. And if you happen to walk by the TI building, you'll see a lot of the new windows are in. We are actually gutting out, have gutted out and started to restore both the first level and the second level of TI along the east wall there. And that's going nicely. We want to have that done with plenty of time for anticipation of return for fall semester. And then lastly, down at the very end, we always report to the board contracts that exceed 20,000. This is per board policy. Any contract that's above 100,000 we have to bring to the board as it relates to construction, but between 20 and 100 we always report those to the board. And the very last one there with S&Z sheet metal for 98,000, this really is pre-investigative work we're doing related to the very large SC renovation project. And in our initial inspection work, a lot of the air distribution systems, we want to validate that those are working as they were designed to be working, because we're going to leverage that air distribution system with our new HVAC system, all the systems we're putting up in the penthouse. So we're doing this work right now to verify, and it will the results of that will then be included in the further work we need to do on the large project, which we'll be bringing to the board later this year. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any discussion about the facilities from?
No, I just have a question if I could, Chair.
Please.
It's just real minor, just for project closeout on the backside, campus repair maintenance, number 1. What does project closeout mean? What's the term, what's the definition of that?
We are currently working with the Washtenaw County Road Commission to finalize the final invoices that we owe to the county to close out the project.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have nothing more.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ruth, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Sorry, okay. Good. Remarks from members of the Board of Trustees. Does anybody have a comment they'd like to share tonight?
I have.
Trustee DeVarty?
For people around the table here, and many people among the faculty are aware that I've always been a strong supporter of our strength in education in the area of arts and humanities. I think this is really important in this time in particular, and I call out, we just looked at the finances in the expenditures areas, all the areas that are separated out. Humanities and social sciences is the largest line item as a group there, but you've got math, science, and engineering, health sciences, business and computer, advanced technologies. All of these are important, but without a strong, broad-based humanities education, they become worthless. So I think it's really important to continue that emphasis. And in that vein, of course, during the pandemic, I can read more newspapers and magazines than I usually do. I've laid on the table for each of the trustees 2 very recent editorials, opinion pieces, one from the Washington Post, an opinion piece by Cornell West, and Jeremy Tate on Howard University's removal of classics as a spiritual catastrophe. And he goes into that, and this is getting a lot of play in the media, this decision and repercussions from it. I'll just read the last sentence from this editorial and encourage everybody to read it. It's just a quick 2-page read. Engaging with the classics and with our civilizational heritage is the means to finding our true voice. It is how we become our full selves, spiritually free and morally great. And then the second piece is from the New York Times opinion piece by Dr. Molly Worthen. A once-in-a-century crisis can help educate doctors. And this is the importance of a foundation in humanities as a part of a strong medical education. And here again, I'll call out one particular paragraph which resonates. It's worth noting that the most famous doctor in COVID-era America is a committed humanist. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, fell in love with the humanities in high school and majored in classics at the College of Holy Cross in Massachusetts. When he pondered life after college, quote, there was this tension. Would it be humanities and classics, or would it be science? He told the New Yorker last year, quote again, and as I analyzed that, it seemed to me that being a physician was the perfect melding of both those aspirations. And it's a much broader, longer opinion piece, but I think it really speaks to the importance of us maintaining our commitment to a strong humanities education here at the college. And we do that with great faculty. And I think it's really important that we maintain a commitment to keeping the faculty, the humanities faculty engaged and a part of our education here at the college. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those two pieces, Dave. Now turn to, Trustee Hatcher, please.
This is painful, but I have to agree and empathize with the three speakers we had from the public today. And I'd like to let them know, as well as the board, that we, at least I as a board member, was as surprised as they were about the closing of the child care center. I don't recall us having a discussion or input. We were informed that a program was ending. As far as I can tell, there's no place, a child care facility, that allows people to have their child there for just 3 hours twice a week. You have to sign up for a big chunk of time. And that was part of the flexibility of our program that faculty as well as students used. It's one less service to our community. And on the radio this week from Michigan Radio was a long piece about the number of daycare centers in Michigan, especially southeastern Michigan, that are closing. So there are few options for our students in spite of a so-called scholarship. I also wanted to thank goodness for the OBTA who arranged some severance for the staff. It's a sad event. Thank you.
Any other comments? Turn to President Blanca for the president's remarks, please.
Yes, well, thank you. I'm going to put my mask on, and anyway, my watch says it's time for me to stand. It's perfect timing. You know, at this time, Chair Milliken and Board of Trustees, we didn't have the opportunity to thank our chair, Christina Fleming, for the work that she did the 2 years that she served as the chair of this board. And during the time that Christina was the chair, there were so many things that happened. And I have to say one thing, a lot of things about Christina, but she's never afraid to share her opinion. She's not afraid to share her expertise. And it was very good to work with her in every regard, but especially that regard. During her chairmanship, we did pass the millage with the highest voter approval in the history of the college, nearly 80%. Also, she was joined by other members of the board, and remember we went to Washington, D.C., and where we joined other colleges, and through our lobbying, we were able to reinstate, all of us were able to reinstate year-round Pell. So, Christina, I just want to thank you for giving us all of your time. Being a chair takes a lot of time because you have to understand every issue, and working with me and other members of the team. So thank you so very, very much. It was an honor to work with you, and I'm glad you're still on board.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Christina.
Do you want me to open it now?
Yes, please.
It might be food.
Oh, you tape it like my mom. Is it Bitcoin?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know you're interested in that.
Oh, wow. Oh, good.
Nice. Is that for your child or your husband?
Oh, I was just thinking I was going to try it out on him tonight.
It's bigger than mine.
I think it's a great.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you
Good for
so much.
Thank you.
Anything further, President Blanca?
No. But I just want to say, yes, there is. Sorry. I too would like to thank the child care workers for their contributions over the years. They are very dedicated people, and hopefully they will apply for other positions here at the college. Some of them have been working through COVID, and that would be wonderful if that could occur. But yes, it's difficult. Change is hard for all of us, and sometimes we have to do things that are uncomfortable. But I really do want to thank them for all the years of their service, and I'd like to thank the original board 53 years ago for supporting this idea. So my heart also goes out to them, and thank you from the college.
Thank you. We'll now move into old business with tab E, which is TargetX Customer Relationship Management System contract renewal. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve a 3-year contract renewal with TargetX in an amount not to exceed $302,100 in annual installments of $100,700 with annual renewal options to provide the student lifecycle relationship management software for recruitment and retention needs. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
And support?
Support.
Is there any discussion? Trustee Hatcher.
I'd just like to ask, since we're spending all this money, that maybe a year from now, someone could remember to give us a report about how well it's working and how many students.
EVP Hearns, could you
I think we did that.
field that question for us?
Yeah, just to remember that,
I'm sorry. I didn't
to
hear
find
the
out how it goes. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Do we need a voice vote or a roll call?
No, we're in person.
We need a roll call.
Nope.
Do we?
I think.
Vanessa,
roll
please
call,
call the
yes.
roll.
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes?
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have tab F, resolution to utilize the maximum allowable 2020-21 Velorum tax rate. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees recommends that the college, when developing its FY 2022 budget, utilize the maximum allowable 2020-2021 ad valorem rate for operations, which at its current rate of 3.3885 mils will generate approximately $62,227,245 of gross tax revenue. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, DeVarty moves.
And support?
Support.
Any discussion on the motion? Trustee DeVarty.
I'm strongly in favor of this. I think the voters spoke loudly when they approved our millage, and the participation in the Free College Week demonstrates our continued accessibility and recognition from members of the county community, and I think this is something in line with what the voters said we could do, and we should do it.
Thank you. EVP Johnson, do you have anything to add to the discussion?
I do not, Chair. This is the first of two motions. This is to approve the maximum rate, and then actually later on, we're going to we have a new updated rate that we'll be presenting to the board. So, thank you.
Thank you. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes?
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you. Tab G, Morris Lawrence Building Renovation Capital Project. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve an increase to the Morris Lawrence Renovation Capital Project budget from $9 million to $10 million, and that the incremental $1 million funding for this project be provided by a transfer of general fund reserves to the capital fund in the amount of $1 million. Further, that the Board of Trustees approve a contract with Stenco in an amount not to exceed $9 million to perform the renovation construction services for the Morris Lawrence Building Renovation Project. Do I hear a motion in support of that?
So moved, DeVarty moves.
Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Trustee Hatcher. Any discussion? Hearing none?
But actually, there is.
Oh, please.
Two things. I support doing this. I think it's great that we can do this out of capital reserves and fund this project. Secondly, I think the Morris Lawrence building, which we're in right now, is such an important part of our relationship with members of the county community. There are so many organizations throughout the county that make use of this facility on a regular basis. COVID or pandemic as soon as the pandemic is over, we'll be back to them using it again. It's a tremendous resource for the community, for the broad community, and as well as for the students and the campus community here on campus. So it's the kind of thing we need to do. It's an investment in facility that serves the entire county. I do want to do one little addition here. I would like us to continue to look at the possibility, as this renovation is happening, that we look to improving our capacity for broadcasting and/or a better quality recording of our board meetings. I think the board meetings, as they're done now, recorded and made available on our website, is very important. It's really important for people, for transparency, for people, the taxpayers in the county, the voters, to see what we're up to and to be able to see us in action, and at least to improve our capacity to record if not to find some way to broadcast live our board meetings. I'd like us to continue to do that since we will be continuing to meet in the Morris Lawrence building. Thank you.
I do approve this. This is awesome. I can't wait to see the renovations begin. It's almost like waiting for a baby to be born, you know? So I want to say thank you very much for seeking out a minority-owned company. As you know, Trustee Diana McKnight Morton has been she's been championing the idea always to have a minority vendor in some capacity to be tied to the college. And I support that effort. And I thank you so much for Stenco Construction Company, and that they're even here in not too far down the road from Livonia. With that, when construction is ongoing, and this is a silly question, so forgive me for asking, just like when you're having construction done at your house, you have somebody there that lives in that house to make sure everybody's doing everything right. There will be somebody from facilities management there to make sure everything is done right. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Trustee Davis, absolutely. We have a weekly meeting planned, and Charles Smith, who's our Director of Design and Construction, will be managing this project. So weekly, we have a very deep meeting, and daily, there's going to be meetings here about 7 a.m. in the morning to walk the project and to make comments to Stenco and to the broader team. So we will be watching this project very closely.
Okay, and so then with that said, when everything is completed and we have other construction projects down the pike, which we do, I would like to say let's go ahead and really ramp up the efforts again to have other minority companies that opportunity to, submit bids if as they have for this one, STEMCO come through. But it really shows that we are passionate about having diversified vendors here, and not just for construction, but for other capacities on the campus.
Thank you, Trustee Davis. Yes, we are making constant efforts across the board to continue to engage with minority and women-owned vendors.
And I know you do. I know you do, but it really shows. Thank you.
Thank you.
The public exposure that the Morris Lawrence building gets annually, our estimate is 90,000 people from outside the college, from the community, from the county, from the area, come to Washtenaw Community College. And that's a great way to showcase what we do here, and the fact that this is all going to be renovated and spiffed up is all the more encouraging. Good salesmanship. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes?
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Hatcher, yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Tab H, tuition and fee rate for credit classes. The recommendation reads as follows. Tuition and fee rates for Washtenaw Community College continue to be among the lowest for Michigan community colleges, with a total cost of enrollment for WCC students consistently ranking in the lowest cost quartile. As an ongoing commitment to affordability and in recognition of the severe impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is having on our students, the college is recommending that for FY 2022, no increase to in-district tuition and modest increases in all other tuition rate categories. The college is also proposing no increase to fees. Therefore, it is recommended that the following student tuition and fee structure be approved for the 2021-22 academic year as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved. No, second.
We've got a motion and support. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Trustee DeVarty?
I'd like to thank the administration for continuing their commitment to keeping our rates for in-county taxpayers as low as we can. And I think it's reflected back to us in the broad support we receive when we ask for millages. And thank you to the finance people and for the college administration for continuing to keep our rates among the lowest in the state.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Milliken, yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes?
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you. Moving into new business, tab I in your agenda. Explorance, Blue Experience Management Platform Contract. And EVP Hearns is standing by to explain to us just what we'd be voting for. Please.
The Explorance contract actually is what we currently use for our student opinion questionnaires. And so the background details the experience in our movement from our paper process, where we really could not capture our online courses. And then we moved to Blue. About 2017, we gradually moved to Blue for our online courses. And then we immediately moved, because we had such good response, for our face-to-face courses as well. It's replaced all of our student opinion questionnaires. And in this past year, we've actually expanded the use of it to our HR performance appraisal processes. So we've expanded the use of it, and that's why it's here today to present to the board.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion? Trustee Hatcher.
This hasn't changed the meat of evaluation at all, just the process.
It does not change the questions at all, and even the actual process changing to the online version, we worked out directly with the WCCEA when we first made that shift. But the questions are still the same, the process is still the same, but it does give the students more prompts to actually get them to respond, because the response rates were so bad in the online courses.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to just comment.
Trustee
So
Davis.
it's just more like a user-friendly platform? It sounded like it was a little more difficult for a student to use? Is that what it was in the past?
You know what, before we actually had, in 2017, we actually had a paper process, and we had the online process, but it would not prompt the students, and it did not integrate directly as easy as this one does with our learning management system, Blackboard. So now this works directly in Blackboard, so it prompts the students to actually complete the surveys, and we have better response rates.
Oh, okay. All right, great. No, I'm good.
Trustee DeVarty.
So I am taking an art class that's being taught by Zoom, so I did see this, although I have to apologize, I didn't fill it out.
You didn't fill it out?
I'm giving direct feedback to the adjunct faculty member. But I've also taken classes in person, and it used to be that the faculty member would hand out questionnaires, and somebody in the class would hand them all out and collect them all. They would all be put in an envelope. And it struck me that that was pretty much fully participated in. I don't know how people filled their things out, but everybody took some time in the classroom to fill it out, and I don't know how those got tabulated after they were put on paper. Now, right now, we are not really having much in the way of in-classroom teaching and learning. When we go back more fully to in-classroom, will we not have those that system, or will we have that in conjunction with the Blackboard online?
The paper process went completely away in 2017.
Oh, so that's not even done anymore?
It's not even done anymore. But it does take a lot of work when we're on campus to do marketing and reminders to get the level of feedback that we had when we actually did the paper ones, which was quite tedious and it costs a lot of manpower, but we get really good, not right now because of COVID, but we do get really good rates online and face-to-face courses equally.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Next matter of business, award of dining services contract. EVP Johnson.
Do we vote on this?
No, we don't vote. We don't have
do a roll
to.
call.
It's a
That's discussion.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
We have proposed for the board a new dining service contract with Creative Dining Services. That's the punchline. Aramark has been with the college since 2013. We went out for bid this year. We formed, I thought, was an amazing committee. Ben Hunhouse was the lead of it, did a great job, and the committee members were outstanding. We had 2 faculty members. We had 2 students, folks from student services, and then folks from our finance team, and you'll see their names there. We had a very strong contribution across the board. We even met when we, as you see, we had 3 bids, Continental, Aramark, and Creative Dining. We dwindled it down to 2, Aramark and Creative Dining, and we actually had face-to-face meetings here on campus with them. We wanted them to see the actual facilities. We wanted to engage with them. The students and the faculty on the committee were outstanding in their questions, the way that they challenged them. Areas of concern for us, once again, was affordability, the quality and the variety of the actual menu items to really address all the various needs on campus for food. We talked a lot about mobile ordering. That was a really important item for us. We wanted to find a vendor who had leveraged the pandemic, learned how to deliver food in a mobile ordering and mobile delivery mode. Creative Dining has an outstanding mobile ordering app. They actually have put in place in a number of schools food lockers, hot lockers. So think about the concept that in the TI building or the OE building or the LA building that you can mobile order your food, and that food is delivered to a hot locker or a cold locker, as it might be, and you can go pick up your food just as an Amazon locker works today, where you get a code, you put in that code, and you get your food as one option. The students and the faculty were really excited about that as a possibility. Another big area that we had was sustainability. It has been a focus for the college around sustainability. And sustainability translates into a number of different facets. It's not just the weight and the packaging of the materials that we use to offer the food, the plates, the foods, the forks, but it also is the food waste. And then what do you do with that food at the end? It also includes supporting local producers, local food growers. So it's all those elements that go into sustainability. As you might imagine, there were a lot of questions around that as well. And so when we went through all those various attributes, the committee felt very strongly that Creative Dining Services was the choice for us. I will note for the board that the times have gone by of the financial structure that we used to have in terms of food service, which was what was called a profit and loss model, wherein the dining service provider took 100% of the financial risk. Those days have gone and been gone for a long time. The college has enjoyed that structure, and Aramark, quite frankly, as our student population has declined for on-campus, the demand for food, Aramark has been losing money the last few years. So each of the 3 of them proposed, based upon the sales profiles that we gave them, they proposed a subsidy model, which is that the college pays for the net loss, if in fact there is a net loss, of anywhere from $175,000 to $260,000 was the range of the 3 vendors. Creative Dining Solution came in at about $200,000 was their best guess. The good news is 2 of the community colleges that Creative Dining works with, both Macomb and Grand Rapids community colleges, Both have much smaller subsidy models. And it took a little time to work with the community to figure out exactly where the demands were and to kind of get their cost structures right. But they've been able to go, for instance, Grand Rapids, when they first started, had a loss of $300,000 a year, and they've been able to get that down to about $115,000 a year, working with the community, finding out what's of value to them in terms of food service and getting the pricing correct. So we have put into this next year's budget a subsidy of $200,000. I just wanted the board to know that, because that is a shift away from where we were, because we recognize that that is the cost of providing dining service on campus. The areas that we propose initially providing is no different, but the mode is different. So the Java spot, what is now the Subway, it'll be changed to something other than Subway, but something like a deli. And then a grill, and the grill will include a lot of local vendors, just as it has before. Kind of the guest restaurant concept, we will include that. The LA area, we will have an offering there. We have tried various forms, and Creative Dining's got a great option there. We're going to look at the option of food trucks, to bring in food trucks to supplement as well. And the most important thing is to engage with the community on a regular basis, get their feedback, and continue to try different things as those needs change. So we are proud to make the recommendation for Creative Dining.
Do we know how a Zealand-based vendor ties into a farm-to-market agricultural community in Washtenaw County? How do they? So it must be some work involved to make those relationships.
There is work involved in that, and part of that work, and what we hope is that they will look at a lot of the employees that Aramark had employed and try to leverage potentially bringing them some onto the team. Many of those employees are local, and many of them know the local farmer and producer community as well. So that's one way that they'll do it. Just as they did with Macomb Community College, for instance, they kind of plugged into that community and started to get those ties.
Any other comments? Anybody? Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good. And now we turn to DTE's My Green Power Contract. Tab K on your agenda.
I'm going to pull up a presentation. The board has the board memo that I go through for the board in detail. A number of the elements that led us to the recommendation for the board around entering into a contract with DTE Energy for my green power. And I'd like to go through the presentation. I assume I might just verify that on your screens that you're seeing it.
It's on our screen, yes.
Great. Thank you very much. So I'd like to go through a few things. One is to kind of give the board a backdrop around electric consumption at the college, the things that we've done already to save energy, our plan to save even further energy over the next 10 years. And then look at the options. We're going to work hard to reduce the total amount of electric consumption, but then we're also going to look hard at finding ways to replace fossil fuel generation with renewable power generation. That's the work that college has been doing for the last about, I would say, 18 months of study. So you'll see on the next slide on electric usage that we have made great strides. So in terms of measurements of units of power, so about 20 million kilowatt hours of consumption is where we were back in 2017. And through our efforts, we've been able to drive that down to something a little north of 18 million kilowatt hours just by the work that we've done. A good example, the cooling tower that we just put in, the replacement of the cooling tower. We worked really hard in the design of that to really drive electric consumption, water consumption down as a result of that cooling tower. And we actually went from a design of 2 units to 3 units, smaller units each, but we're able to run more times than not 2 out of the 3 at a lower electric consumption. That's one good example. Boiler upgrades that we've done recently in the Energy Center. we've looked at find ways to reduce the total amount of natural gas consumption, electric light replacements. So a lot of areas have really served to achieve the first 2 million of kilowatt hour of reduction. But that's just a start. The college really has been working hard, and we have a very detailed plan to, over a 10-year period, to save another 20% of electric consumption. To go, so once again, we're about 18 million kilowatt hours, and get that down over time to about 14 million kilowatt hours is our goal. And Craig Whipstock and his team have worked hard over the last year, working with the deferred maintenance budgets that we have had and we have in our multi-year plan, along with the major renovation projects such as the ML renovation project and the SC renovation project, to be able to conserve 20% additional electric consumption. On this next slide, you see what that plan entails. So about 3.7 million kilowatt hours over the 10-year period. About 2/3 of that comes from something that seems so simple, just light fixture replacement, right? Many of those lights have been around for 20 or 30 years, the actual fixtures, the actual fluorescent bulbs, to convert those to LEDs. And so what we've been studying with that is not just the replacement of those fixtures, but to use the right fixtures for the right space, so you minimize not only the amount of electric consumption per fixture, but we actually can find a way to reduce the number of fixtures that we use. And you really can do that well with LED technology that's come out as of late. So you'll see, just as that one line, about 2.7 million kilowatt hours of savings. About 880,000 would have been normal maintenance costs. We would have been replacing light fixtures anyways, but we're going to spend about another 560,000 on those light fixtures to buy a higher grade LED fixture that has lower energy consumption, and that payback is significant just in the first year alone. Not the first year, but at the end of the 10 years, it'll be 272,000 worth of savings. So that's how that chart works. And so you can see it's in light fixtures, it's the control of light fixtures. So when you walk out of the room, the lights go off. You walk in a room, the lights go on. So the automation, timing of our light fixtures across campus. And then in our HVAC systems. So you'll see 761,000 kilowatt hours there. That's largely in things like, as I said, the ML renovation project and the SC renovation project, and the savings that comes with that. So we have a very detailed plan. We have the funding for the board, just as you did today by approving the ML renovation project at the 10 million. That's another significant step in part towards this energy conservation that we're going to do. So we're very confident in this plan that we can get there. So why does that matter? It certainly matters from just electric costs, and you saw that on the prior slide, the amount of electric savings that we'll have through this plan. But it also has a very significant impact on the carbon footprint for the college. And so the sustainability of a committee of the college has been in existence and working hard for a number of years. Retired now faculty member Dale Petty has actually put on, back in 2020 in faculty in service, he did an update for the college during the in-service. And he showed this slide. It's a great slide. From 2018, the last data that we had at the time, around greenhouse gas emissions, about 38% of our carbon footprint comes from electric consumption being sourced or generated from fossil fuels, right? About 38% of our footprint alone. So the goal is to get that to zero. That's the goal. I just showed you how we can reduce it by 20% just by the energy conservation work. So how do we get the balance? So how do we get that other 80% of the largest share of our carbon footprint that we have? Well, we really want to look at then being able to source the remaining electric needs of the college through renewable power sources as opposed to fossil. So we looked at 3 different options. We looked at building solar array systems on our campus as a way to supply our own electric generation. We looked at participating with outsource firms to tap into other solar array systems, including building it on our campus, but through a third party. And last, we looked at our own utility that supplies us electricity today. And DE has an option for that. So let's look at what a solar array would look like on our campus. We used Lot 7 as a good example, and when we were doing this initial work, we were trying to find a parking lot that would provide enough electric generation to serve about 10% of our campus needs. So lot 7 is a good example. That's going to be about 1.4 million kilowatts of capacity. Now, when we looked at spaces on campus that we could solar array, we're not interested in clearing land. We're not interested in chopping down trees. So parking lots is our best option for us. And we studied, there's a number of carport solar array systems in the state of Michigan. Michigan State University has an outstanding program where they're doing that. We actually went up and visited and talked with their director, who's in charge of designing and running these solar array systems. Learned a lot about it from them. We contracted with an outside party, Gem Energy, who does this work in building and operating these systems. We had them do an assessment of Lot 7, and you see the results. About 1.4 million kilowatt hours for that parking lot. It would cost about $3.2 million to build it. And if you were to outsource it, if you were to ask a third party to build it and operate it for you through a PPA or purchase power agreement with that party, it would cost about 15 cents per kilowatt hour, which is about 5 cents greater than what we're paying today on average per kilowatt hour from DE. So based on that prototype of Lot 7, we would need about 10 Lot 7s to supply the entire energy needs for the college. We don't quite have that much parking space, but we could probably get most of it accomplished through that. However, that would be about a 5-cent premium above our current rates. That's pretty expensive. So that would be about a 50% increase in power cost for the college. College spends about $1.7 million a year in electric costs. That's our rate. So we looked at those first 2 options, building our own. We looked at outsourcing it to a third party, and we said those are good options, but they're pretty pricey. So let's see what DTE has to offer. Well, DTE has been working on, for a number of years now, a renewable power strategy. They've already invested about $2.9 billion in renewable power, both solar and wind. Their plans are to get to $5 billion in investment. And they actually, if we go to the next slide, on slide 12, you'll see they actually went to the Michigan Public Power Service Commission, the MPSC, and they asked for approval for what's called a Rider 19 rate, which is an incremental rate that you pay above your normal electric rate. And that through that rate, that if you're a customer, that if they get enough customers to support to build a new, in this case, solar power array system, they can then build that system, they can charge us that incremental rate, and then they can put additional green power onto the grid, onto the DTE grid, which then can be sourced back to WCC. The great thing about the My Green Power rider is it's flexible. What's the amount of your power that you want to buy? Do you want to buy 10%, 20%, 100%? And you can kind of flex that. And we liked that, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Customers that they already have. So this is their newest solar array system that they are working right now is going to be installed in 2023. They've done at least 2 other large installations, and they have a number of customers. And this is dated about a week. And you can see on this slide the customers who have made significant commitments to green power. It includes GM and Ford and U of M, Domino Farms, just to name a few. And last week there was a really big announcement on Earth Day that the state of Michigan has made a commitment to go, all of their buildings are going to be sourced through green power within about a 10-year period. And the way that they're going to do it is by partnering with their public utilities in the state, such as Consumers Power and DTE, to buy significant amount of green power from those utilities. Trinity Health just did the same thing. They've made a significant commitment, and they're partnering with DTE for their My Green Power. So we feel that we would be in good company with a lot of other organizations across the state who are making this commitment to get as much of their electric consumption as they can through renewable sources with that. So we did some work with DTE around what our needs would be. And as I mentioned, they have their next solar array system is going to be in 2023. It's actually, if you were to drive down US 23, just north of Milan, they've got about 1,200 acres that through private-owned farmland in cooperation and partner with the farmers, that they're going to building a 120 gigawatt system, solar array, of which we would be a part of. So what's really great about this from my side, it's kind of a side benefit, is that we would be buying green power from a solar array system in Washtenaw County. That's wonderful. We would like to commit 25% of our electric consumption in 2023, the first year it comes online, and then step up 10% higher each and every year, so that by 2030, that 100% of our power consumption would be sourced through renewable sources. So what does that premium look like? On the next slide, there really are two parts to it. There is the surcharge at 5.2 cents. So remember when we looked at the PPA agreements that they were 15 cents. So this is about a third of the cost. And it's because of just the scale, the sheer size of the solar farm itself. That's good. But even better is that there is an average credit that'll be yielded, because the amount of power that they're putting on the grid is more than the needs of all its customers at any point in time. And so there is a credit on average that's going to be about 4 to 4.2 cents per year, so that our cost is going to net to a little more than a penny per kilowatt hour. And that's significant. That is a tremendous value to the college relative to the other options. That still is a premium. It's a premium above the dime that we're paying now. So how do we pay for that premium? And so you can see on slide 16 that we think through our energy conservation efforts that we're actually going to be saving when we get fully to the 20% range, and you can see that as shown in fiscal years 29 and 30, that we'll be close to $400,000 a year of energy cost savings through conservation. The premium that we'd be paying through this contract is $120,000, $130,000 a year. So even after paying the premium for My Green Power for sourcing 100% of our remaining electric use through renewable sources, we would still be in a net savings position of well north of $200,000 a year. So we think this is a good use in part of the energy conservation dollar savings by making a commitment as a college over a 10-year period to not only reducing our total electric consumption by 20%, but also to be able to source the remaining portion of our power through renewable sources. It puts us as a leader in the college community here in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
I have a question.
Trustee Davis.
Okay, thank you. So given Lot 7 as the prototype for this report, and Lot 7 is the largest parking lot on this campus, right? Or no?
It's actually not the largest. Lot 8, which is directly behind the LA building, going out to Clark Road. That's our largest lot.
So we would have to, and I'm trying to keep up, okay? This is pretty technical. We would have to outfit all of the parking lots with this solar array carports to achieve the savings that is projected here. Is that correct?
We would need to outfit all of our parking lots to generate enough electricity so that by 2030, 100% of our electric needs, 14 million kilowatt hours, could be produced through solar array systems on our campus.
And these parking lots, now, I would like to think some of these would have like outlets, because some people, like our chair here, has an electric vehicle to plug it in. Can people plug it in?
We would certainly integrate into the solar carport system charging stations, yes.
Okay, and those areas have already been identified?
We are actually working on a plan. So regardless if we do a solar array system on our campus, we are actually working on a plan as we speak to further expand the number of charging station locations that we have on campus.
Okay, but the upfront cost is what we know is usually the most in order to get the savings down the road. We have to put up that much upfront. And this is not something we're looking to do right away, because we have other big projects on the horizon.
So you raise a really good point, which is that by signing up with DTE for My Green Power does not preclude the college in any way from building renewable power generation assets on our campus. So if after study that the board were to instruct administration, we wanted to build a solar array like the one here on lot 7, we certainly could. Again, there's a large cost differential of doing that, but if for other reasons the college said we want to have a solar array system on our campus, whatever size, nothing in the DTE agreement would preclude us from doing that.
Well, I'm all great for this, yeah, but I think just in stages, if that is possible, if it's something that has to be done all at once, because I could see it happen just a little bit, like a parking lot at a time over a year or something. I don't know.
Dave?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it.
I think what Vice President Johnson is proposing is an option other than building the solar array.
Gotcha. Oh,
So
okay.
he's proposing a different path for us to achieve this full energy generation, and that's by contracting with DTE and paying a premium on our bill, in incrementally increasing, that we will participate in a large investment they're making near Milan, which I like to call Milan, to do solar energy production. So we're essentially taking a piece of that. We're paying extra to take a piece of that.
Instead of having to do this.
Instead of doing this. So that's
Gotcha.
what
Okay.
that's what Vice President Johnson's proposing.
Okay.
I do want to say that I had the opportunity to start looking at this last week. I have significant questions about the DTE My Green Power. I have very good friends on the Ecology Center staff, Ann Arbor Ecology Center staff, and Michigan Sierra Club, and the Michigan Environmental Council. And I have significant questions about DTE as an alternative energy provider, as opposed to, from what I'm reading, Consumers Energy has a much better track record of actually getting these projects in the ground and making them happen. And I don't want us to participate in being a poster child for DTE for a program that's not working. Although if this is a viable thing, I'm totally for it. And I do want to let the board know that I've put out questions to people that are researching this and looking into it for me. And at some point, I'll have some more direct questions for Vice President Johnson and for President Belanca before I can support this. But I hope to be able to support it. It sounds great to me if we can say we're doing 100% of our electric usage through sustainable electric
I agree,
generation
too.
by 2030. That's what we need to do. And the path to do it is what I'm questioning about. Not the goal, I'm totally behind. But look forward in the next week or 2 weeks. We'll have some direct questions that I'll have, and hopefully I can be an enthusiastic supporter of this.
With the DTE program, what would be the timetable going forward to participate in that?
We have signed a non-committal letter of intent that gives us until June 1st, because they have a number of other customers who are waiting. We have kind of reserved our spot in the 2023 assets. But I mean, as President Belanca and I have said, the board needs to take the time that it needs to take to assess it. You make that my problem to go work with DTE to figure out that if in the end you say, let's stay with the 2023, if that slides beyond June 1st, then that's on me to figure out how to get that done with DTE.
So here's an aside for you. Is Ford Motor Company going to equip the Michigan Central Terminal building with a DTE array?
I don't know the answer to that, Chair Milligan. That's a good question.
Any other discussion? Trustee Hatcher.
I just wonder if, a little side question, how much this might influence an occupational program here in this kind of energy for our students. And I don't know if we can do it in conjunction with that, but it seems to me that the community needs those people.
Trustee Hatchie, that's a great point. And even beyond the energy, if I can go back, if you would, just to engage with me, this slide here, right? So we're tackling the electric side, but there are a lot of elements of our footprint. So as we as a college continue to gauge more and more around driving our carbon footprint, that's not only led by the facilities team, but a lot of other folks on campus. And so I think around sustainability, energy conservation, we're doing a lot of good work that we certainly could tie into the curricular side to provide strong opportunity there.
Yeah, I think we should.
I couldn't hear all of Ruth's question, but is that going to internships with the construction of these projects?
Or at least, and also having our own program that students could complete.
Great opportunity.
Related to
Yeah,
that.
for the STEM students.
Yeah. Any other?
One other question, Bill, as I was thinking about this more deeply, so if we make this commitment to be participants in the 2023 DTE array near Milan, but we're also committing to ramping up our participation in their program. The additional ramp up is not coming from the Milan project. It's coming from future projects that they undertake with our commitment to increase our premium payment.
It's actually, so they're actually reserving the full 100% load.
Oh, they are.
Out of that. But that's not to say, as they build further assets beyond 2023, that all that power is going on the grid, but they are reserving 100% of our needs out of 2023.
So 100% of what we're going to get to, 100% of our energy or electricity use, they're going to consider as ours from their Michigan Green program.
Yes.
And if other people sign in and want more, I mean, are they going to be able to satisfy everybody and to everybody without duplicating? I mean, is it a Bernie Madoff scheme where we're giving them some of this electricity? I'm DTE. I'm going to give you some of the electricity. Oh, but I'm also giving that same electricity.
No, and actually that's governed by the Michigan Public Service Commission. So the contracts are tied to assets. And so the Michigan Public Service Commission is the one that governs the total contractual commitment relative to the renewable power asset resources that DTE has.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
I had just one silly
Yes,
question.
Trustee Davis, go ahead.
Okay, so then would our meters have to be changed out?
The meters would not have to be changed out because we would be getting our power through the same tie-ins with DTE that we do today.
So it's just on their end, it's just like just flipping a switch, pretty much.
That's right.
Gotcha, okay.
Well, just what we're doing is investing, we're making a commitment to pay a premium so they can invest that into sustainable energy production, whether it's wind or solar or whatever. And then they take that commitment, all these companies that they showed us are paying that premium. So DTE is investing that into solar, wind, whatever means they do, and they put that into their grid. So that goes into the entire electric grid. But we're committed to a certain amount of, we're saying we're investing basically as part of this, so we can say that we're using sustainable energy as opposed to fossil fuel generated.
We're partners.
Right. So it's a good program if they're doing what they say they're doing.
Sounds good to me.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Let us now turn to graduation. An action item, tab L in your agenda, approval of 2020-2021 candidates for graduation. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the candidates for graduation as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And supported. Any discussion?
How many is on this roll? I lost count. Oh, my Lord. So did we do the drive-by already? No. Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Milliken, yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
The candidates stand approved. Congratulations in advance. Great. Now, we have a public hearing following this trustee meeting, and in order to get to that, we need to have a motion to adjourn the Board of Trustees meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So, support.
I heard a motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing none?
Can this be a voice vote?
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Trustee meeting is adjourned. And the public hearing is now open, and the board will now hear comments. If anyone is here to speak, please come to the podium and state your name, and your comments are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody who wishes to speak this evening? Seeing none, thank you. The time for public comments is over. EVP Johnson, would you introduce the budget discussion for us, please?
Great. Thank you, Chair
Reopen
Milliken.
the meeting?
Was it?
Does he have to reopen the meeting?
I believe you just did.
Okay.
Did you guys vote on the opening the?
What, Larry? I'm sorry.
We opened, I opened it orally, correct?
Yeah, you should vote on the opening the meeting.
Ah,
Oh,
and is that a roll call?
Yes.
Vanessa, would you please call the roll regarding opening the public meeting?
Chair Milliken,
Milliken, yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
The meeting is open, and EVP Johnson, would you step forward and introduce the budget discussion, please?
Thank you, Chair Milliken. So we have another year, another proposed budget, and as I'm sure that you've seen in the materials, this was a significant year for the college across the board as we tried to respond to a number of challenges that we were facing. So the board has actually three documents. We have the draft motion This is just the first reading of our budget, so it's the draft motion of the budget itself. We have a second document which actually walks for the board last year's budget for that particular line item, like tuition and fees, last year compared to this year, and a narrative to explain the causes for those changes. And then the third document we have for the board for your review is a detailed walk in numbers for each of the departments, and it shows for each department the approved budget for the current year, broken up between personnel, non-personnel, and total. And then it then provides the proposed budget for that same department next year, also personnel, non-personnel, and total, and then the difference column there. So those are the three materials that we provide to the board in advance. I'd like to go through with the board kind of the inner workings of the budget, the key strategies that we had in mind, the challenges that we had to face, and what we believe is an outstanding budget proposed for next year. The process is always a detailed process. We start that process in the fall, but it really is preceded by our ongoing quarterly meetings that we do across the board. Barb Fillinger, the Director of Budgeting and Purchasing, and myself meet quarterly with all of the departments across the college to walk through what's going on in your budget this year. What are the issues that you're facing? How do we address those issues the best that we can in the current year? And what does that tell us about what your needs might be for next year? So that quarterly process is really important, and it's always being aligned against the strategies of the college. And this year, that budget process was informed by the work that we did on our forecast for the impact of the pandemic. And as we walked through with the board at the board retreat this time last year, we were facing a potential $5 million gap between forecasted revenues for fiscal '22 and beyond and the expenditure needs. And that led us to a number of initiatives over this past year to close that gap. And we walked through those with the board at the board retreat. But that helped to inform our approach for this year's budget. And so the divisions, they submitted their budgets about the 1st of February, and then we presented the budget to President Blanca for review. We then went through at our third quarter budget meetings, which were held in March. We went back through all that information with the various departments. Then we submitted back out the final proposed budget to each of the departments and asked for their acceptance of those proposed budgets, and we received those back. And so we are pleased to recommend a budget which is a 2.2% increase from this year's budget to next year's budget in total general fund spending. Of course, that budget process, every step of the way, is informed by the strategies of the college. Where are the college priorities, and how do we make sure that we are providing the right amount of funding towards those priorities in the context of what our budget forecasted revenues are. And so on slide 5, I offer for the board just a high-level view of revenue and expenses. And I think this is quite telling that if you look at fiscal '20 revenue expense levels, actuals, and then you compare that to our budget for this year, the year that we're in now, it wasn't much different, especially on a revenue basis, than what we actually achieved. Down a little bit, largely because of state appropriations and a little bit in tuition and fees. But you'll see what we're actually achieving for fiscal '21. This is a summary of the forecast that I presented to the board at the April retreat that we had. And you can see that both revenue and expenses are down. Next year's budget, as you can see, is actually at, if not slightly higher in revenue and expense than both 21 budget, the current year, as well as 20 actuals. So while we had faced a significant challenge and we needed to meet that challenge front on, we were able to fund the strategies of the college. So there is, again, a 2% increase. On slide 6, this provides some of the detail for each of the revenue areas. And on the next slide, I'll go through some of those assumptions. But a good placeholder would be line 5, tuition and fees. So for 1920, we were about 32 million in total tuition and fees. We dropped down to a budget of 30.9, but you can see we're actually going to be closer to 27 million for this year for tuition and fees, and we're forecasting that to go back up to about 29.5 million for next year. And we'll go into more of the details there. So at the bottom line, if you look at total revenue, 111 million was our actual for fiscal 20 actuals, and we're forecasting a proposed budget for next year of 112 million. So just slightly higher than what we actually achieved pre-pandemic, because fiscal 20 was not really impacted from a revenue perspective significantly by the pandemic. It really was fiscal 21. So some of the key assumptions in our revenue budget line items. So we are forecasting about a 6% decline in credit hours for fall from budget of this year to budget of next year, and about a 4% decline for winter. So we have forecasted conservative on the revenue side. If you were to ask me how our fall looks right now, we're actually up. We're actually up about 12%. But we think that a good part of that is just timing. And also a little bit is temporary because of the state-funded programs. But we all know that those are at risk based upon what's being proposed in Lansing, which is to defund the Reconnect and the Future for Frontliners effective October 1st. So we think going with a more conservative 6% decline is a fair way to look at what might happen for this fall on that side. We've already talked about tuition rates and being able to keep our in-district rates level from year to year. Property taxes are actually up 4%. The county issued their final assessed values in heavily adjusted property tax rates, and those are up 4%. And we are so thankful for that. That really helped the college to offer a balanced budget for this year. Our assumption on state aid is level from year to year. And quite frankly, the recommendations, the governor's recommendation, which is a 2% increase, the Senate's recommendation is no increase. The House recommendation is a 2% increase up, but with a big change in the allocation of funding. We think staying level as a budget assumption is a fair way to think about next year on state aid. The trade partners are going to remain low. Our trade partners have, except for one, the roofers who have committed to doing their training program in the fall time. Both the iron workers and the UA, pipe fitters and plumbers, are not going to be on campus this summer, so our revenue for this summer is down as compared to a normal year. And that also impacts expenses, and you'll see that on both sides. Investment income is going to remain level at about that $550,000 to $600,000, with interest rates being as low as they are, and the college not being able to invest in anything but municipals here in the state of Michigan or at the state level. Our rates of interest that we achieve are very, very low. And as you see in the finance reports, we're averaging about 1.8% on our total portfolio as we speak. And last but not least, our other auxiliary revenue. So for instance, the conference center. We will not have the conference center, the Morris Lawrence Conference Center, open for all of fiscal 22. Certainly, we would have hoped to have been able to open that later this calendar year or next year, but we have a big renovation project, which is going to close the ML building for 6 months, starting in January. So that's been reflected.
Some of the material said Morris Lawrence would close in December, and I was hoping that wouldn't foreclose some holiday gatherings, that we could get some revenue from some events. Is that possible?
We have a hard schedule to meet the June 30th date. We need to close the third week in December, the start of the third week in December, to be able to achieve the June 30th.
Well, it sounds like you've got it all worked out. I won't get in the way.
We have a hard date on June 30th, so we are going to hit that date.
Good.
On the expense side, so there's two sections to our expenses. So anything from line 1 down through the total of total expenditures is our real operation expenditures. That's kind of the departmental expenditures. It's our equipment, our technology for PC replacement. Below that line is what we call our transfers. So we're funding, we take money out of the general fund for debt service. We still have debt that's outstanding related to the fitness center. You'll see that on line 11. Classroom and furniture funds, the campus repair and maintenance funds, and then down line 16 and 17, deferred maintenance for the campus, and really deferred maintenance and infrastructure improvement for technology on line 17 there. So you see, again, $112 million in total expenditures, and that compares to a budget of about $110 million for this year. So the underlying assumptions for those expenditures, we have a 1.5% increase as in our contracts for all of our employees. Benefit cost increases, we've assumed that. MEPSR plan cost increases each and every year. The statutory rate for funding into MEPSRs goes up. As you see on the second bullet, retirement costs are $12.4 million. So it's about 11% of our whole budget is for retirement costs. Now, the way that we're able to fund those increasing costs, and as we approach the board and we talked through about a year ago, that $5 million gap, part of that is we wanted to be able to fund continual increases in compensation, strong benefit plans, strong technology services that we have on campus, strong student support, all our strategies. But we knew that we needed to solve for that. So the ways that we solve for that is by leveraging the learnings that we've had from being in a pandemic to really, we've all learned how to do things a little differently, and that's translated into lower costs. So our part-time costs have been able to be reduced as a result. We had 10 vacant positions in our budget for this current year that hadn't been filled, and we said we're not going to fill them until we see a need. We looked into the future and says we don't think we need to fill them. So we eliminated 10 vacant positions from our budget. That was virtually all on the independent and the OBT side. And this budget also reflects the cost savings that come from the closure of a couple of our programs, including the culinary program and the Children's Center are also part of the cost savings. The non-personnel costs, we looked hard once again. We leveraged our learnings in working in remote operations, and kind of pretty much across the board, we're able to reduce many of our non-contractual, non-personnel costs by 10%. And that was, I will say, that work that I just talked about was tremendous hard work that was done across this college during this budget season. It was really difficult for folks to think through, what did I learn over this past year? How do I leverage that? And am I confident that I can deliver the quality of instruction, the amount of student services that I need to post-pandemic in a way that still allows me to achieve those goals at a lower dollar amount? And this is the good work that was done across the campus during this budget time. The other thing that we did, Trustee Hatcher.
I'm just wondering, is the, I can't think of their name, but the new IT thing that we pay for, is that under non-personnel?
That is under non-personnel,
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
Yep. In fact, the next slide, we'll be able to see that a little bit more. So let's look at that next slide, slide 10. So this is a different view of expenditures, and you have the detail that 8-pager that you all have that shows department by department. Barb Fillinger did a great job of giving you the detail and then a subtotal for each of these lines. So you will be able to see each of the departments that ties into each of these lines here. So you see instructional support, student services, administrative, and IT. So Trustee Hatcher on line 4 there for IT. And so the 7.7 million, and that is all in non-personnel in this case. So our budget for operating expenses, so this is before transfers, this year is 106 million, and it's going down to 104.6. So personnel is actually only going down 0.4. But you can see on line 8 that we had to increase the budget by 1.7 million to fund the compensation increases and the benefit cost increases that are either in our contracts or that we anticipate in terms of benefit cost increases, like through MEPSers, through medical plans, and so on. And then on line 9, for vacancy and non-personnel, so each month the board hears me talk about the vacancy savings assumption, right? And this year we're in now, we actually had a much larger number for vacancy savings because we knew we were going to be in a hiring freeze for at least a significant part of the year, and we were going to try to not spend as much on part-time costs because we knew we wouldn't be on campus. Well, next year that's not the case. Next year, we want to be back on campus more. We reduced 10 full-time positions. We've reduced part-time budgets. So the amount of vacancy savings that we have assumed in this budget for next year is much lower, to the tune that you can see there on line 9, the 1.4 million less vacancy savings assumption for next year. Why? Because we have a slightly smaller workforce that we're assuming next year compared to what we had for the prior year. So that in total, that we're going to be down in operating expenditures before transfers about 1.4 million. But in personnel, you can see that instructional support, we're down 2.3 million. A good part of that is the culinary savings that we've had, but also a lot of the part-time costs that we had. In student services, in personnel, we're down 1.6 million. 1.3 of that is the closure of the Children's Center. So it gives you kind of a frame for the work that was done with that.
Do we have a question from Trustee Hatcher?
Trustee Hatcher, yes.
In terms of vacancies and hiring, we did fill several administrative positions and hire a couple of new administrative positions this year, didn't we?
The total, in this year's and next year's budget, right, we are actually going to be total down for independent staff. So the non-union staff that we have, we're actually going to be down about 9 total positions. Budget to budget, we're going to be about down 9 positions. Now there's ups and downs within certain departments, but net we're going to be down about 9 positions.
Okay, but we didn't exactly freeze those administrative positions.
So the process that we went through with each vacant position is we assess the position's need, just as we would always do, right? We would assess the need relative to the conditions as we are today and how we would forecast them into the future. In the middle of a pandemic, most of those positions we paused longer because we were uncertain about what our future held for us.
But
so we
did
paused.
add a vice president's position this year.
Ruth, could you pull your microphone closer?
I'm so used to it. We did add a vice president's position this year, a fairly expensive one, didn't we? Or associate vice president or something?
So I don't know what the total was. I think it was a net zero, honestly, for that.
Are you referring to marketing, Ruth?
Yes.
Okay, that was a replacement for Brendan Prebo.
Yeah.
He was the AVP that left.
Right, but it was an
there's
AVP, yes.
It's more of a VP, right?
Right.
For
Just
not
checking.
much difference. I'll talk later.
Thank you.
So if we move on from the revenue and the expenses, the other, I think it's important for us to look at just the overall financial strength of the college. And so on slide 11, I offer for the board a view of our balance sheet, assets and liabilities. And I think what's really important to look at is that line 14, the total net position. And the question is, what do we see as being the total net position of the college? And you can see that we believe that we're going to be slightly positive. So we're forecasting to be net slightly positive. It would be much larger than that if it wasn't for line 8. Line 8 is the biggest contributor to reducing our total net position, which is pension plan. And it's the MEPSR's plan. And the amount of the unfunded liability in the MEPSR's plan continues to grow, even with all the best efforts of the state to manage that. And it has to do with that there's just less and less folks that are in the plan, and the return on assets versus the costs of those benefits is creating a greater liability, and the college's share of that as well.
Is that true for all institutions? It's not unique to us, is it?
It's part of it is not unique, and part of it is unique. In institutions that don't have significant reductions in workforce, such as ours, we start picking up larger and larger pieces of the pie. So while the total, you're right, Chair Milliken, is growing, and so we all share in that growth. But if you have a larger slice of the pie, then you share at a faster pace than everybody else. But the real message that I wanted to give here is that we study, when we do the budget, it's not just the revenue expenditures, our strategies, make sure we're meeting all these things, but we also look at the long-term financial health of the college to make sure that we don't do anything inadvertently on a short-term basis financially that's going to harm the college long-term from a financial position. And so this is an assessment of that and feel good about that. So in summary, that we were faced about a year ago with a $5 million gap in our budget between revenue expenses. And as we talked about at the board retreat, and as you see here tonight, we are proud to present a budget that has growth of 2.2%, going to all the key strategies of the college to continue to sustain and grow and serve the community well. That we've been able to balance the budget and to serve our students strongly, and that last bullet, and continue to take care of our campus. Both the facilities, the technology, the equipment, the furniture, that this budget continues to support that. So that's our recommendation.
Any questions of Bill Johnson? Trustee DeVarty.
I'm looking at the pink sheets, which are the details. And one of the things I'm looking at is personnel. So I've got one question in the general administration institutional service. There's this big negative $3 million under staff control account. Is that positions being held open last year?
So that
was from last year.
Yeah, so that is each and every year we make an assumption at the college level as to the amount of vacancy savings that we're going to have. We don't assign that to any one department because we don't know where those vacancies are going to be. So that big negative is the vacancy savings assumption, and from year to year there was a significant change. We actually lowered the vacancy savings assumption, which caused that negative.
So next year's budget, we don't have a negative. It's 112,000.
That's the variance, right? So
well, it's the variance is actually 3,200,000 roughly.
So that is a net number. The 112,000 is net of two things. It's the vacancy savings, which is about $2 million, offset by we budget for all the compensation and benefit increases, and we put it in that same department so that it nets down to 112,000. But there's two big numbers, one a negative and one a positive.
Okay. And then as I'm looking through departments, I'm just as an example, I'm looking at, and I'll take a deeper dive into this month before the final thing if I have specific questions later. But as I'm looking at this, let's say the public relations department.
What page are you on? Do you have a sense? No, they're not numbered. I'm sorry.
What page are you on, Dave?
It's the pink, it's like the page 4 of the pink sheet.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, thank you.
So if I'm looking at personnel from last year versus personnel from this year, it looks like under advancement, it was 430,000 last year and 366,000 this year. Does that mean we're down one position?
That could be a combination of positions down or part-time dollars that are down. Most of the departments across the college were given the task to look hard at their part-time dollars, especially on the staff side, to see if there were ways for us to be able to reduce dollars. So that's a good example where you see that we're down by $65,000 for the advancement group, and most of that's going to be in part-time dollars.
And
Please.
Okay, thank you, Chair Milliken. And one of the reasons for that is we really were trying to always preserve full-time jobs. That's our goal, to preserve the full-time job. So, just so that you know why that was our decision, to look
Okay.
at part-time hours.
So, and then another one that I called out attention to and put a dash by, continuing ed and community services, there's a variance of an additional 150,000. Is that a new position or two new positions?
It's actually not. That is, in that particular case, that is geography. So we actually transferred an employee from one of the instructional orgs into that org. So we're just doing a transfer of a position from one org to another. And I might just tell the board that in many cases in personnel, a number of the negatives and positives are just transfers. There was a lot of movement within the instructional areas, and then a number of moves also in the administrative areas of employee positions moving. Counseling area is a good example. Counseling and advising, that we reorganize those areas, so you'll see a lot of movement. Student records in the registrar's area. So there's just a lot of geography moves with that. The summary that I tried to provide for the board was, if you take away the noise of transfers between departments, what's really going on? What's really causing the ups and the downs? And that's what the narrative was trying to do.
Is there any other discussion?
I guess one more question. So the biggest differential on personnel is in this children's center, which we heard from a number of public speakers, of almost $1.3 million. But we've offered people to be transferred, that they could get positions in other units at the college?
No. Well, actually, Larry could answer this even better than I, because he was part of the settlement, but.
Yeah, we applied the position elimination language of the collective
Larry, can
bargaining
you
agreement.
speak in your microphone so that we can hear it?
Yeah, we
Please.
applied the position elimination language in the collective bargaining agreement, and one employee had the ability to move into another position, either a vacancy or bump somebody based on seniority,
Can you hear that?
but the other positions did not.
Oh, I see. So those ones are gone without the opportunity of moving
Yes.
somebody else.
But, excuse me, may I? Mr. Chair? So I'm wondering if you're asking Trustee DeVard about my comment. We did not move them into positions, but they have the opportunity to apply for positions. So we followed their contract.
I see.
That they were qualified for.
Excuse me?
They had to be qualified for those new positions.
Yes, they do.
Okay, everybody good?
Yep. I'm sure I'll have more questions, which I'll try to put in writing ahead of the next meeting.
Thank you. We'll move ahead. We have one more matter for discussion, a resolution to approve the 2021-2022 tax levy rate for general operations. EVP Johnson, stick with us.
Thank you, Chair Milken. So the board had just approved to allow us to use the maximum rate when preparing our budgets, which we did. And you also saw that we had a 4% increase in total property taxes. The millage rate went up. Our old millage rate was 3.3538, and now it went up to 3.37. So the reason why it went up is that when the millage was passed this past year, that particular millage had been, like they all do, they get adjusted by Headley down each and every year. When the millage is passed, it gets restored back up to its full original rate, which in this case was 1.0 mils. But then in the same breath, it's then adjusted down by Headley again. So we're already starting down that path. But that did help in terms of the total millage rate. So the motion that you have before the board, that once again we would ask at the next meeting for you to approve, would be to approve that millage rate, which is a millage rate we were given by the county last Thursday morning. So.
Any discussion? Any questions?
That's the millage rate with the Headley adjustment?
It is.
Okay.
Thank you. Before seeking a motion to adjourn this public hearing, I just want to say that the technicians who set up this room tonight gave us a very functional facility to work in. I don't know if that's Pete Facilities doing, but this room has worked very well, and it's great to be back face-to-face for a real in-person meeting. So with that, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there support? All in, well, that's a roll call, isn't it?
Yes.
Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Milliken, yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Davis, yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.